Welcome to the What's Sizzling podcast. I'm your host, Chandler Santel, along with Bilal Muhammad, Brian Sandifer. Looking forward to an amazing show. It's the first of many. We've got quite a packed show. A lot of things to talk about, from the pros to college to high school basketball, all the way down to grassroots. I'll pass it over to Brian Sandifer, let him introduce himself, and then we'll get over to Bilal.
Brian Sandifer, born and raised St. Paul, Minnesota, in inner city Frogtown community, and I've been a big sports fan for many years, football, basketball, baseball, and when my playing days were over with, after playing in college basketball and football and basketball at Normandale Community College, I decided to take my talents to play football because at that time, I was a little bit too big to be running around trying to shoot jump shots and think that I could dunk. So I decided that football was my passion and went and did that. Played football for a while. Played in the Arena Football League for 7 years, 1 year professional in Italy. And then when I got done playing, I had a son, and that's when the Sizzle movement started in the early 2000s. And here we are today doing the one and only What's Sizzling podcast. And I'm looking forward to doing it with these young men. Bilal, my man over here to the right, East Coast legend, and my middle man, my man Chandler Santel, who's a coach in my program and been with me from day one. Both these guys are highly liked and highly hated sometimes, but guess what? They're my guys.
What's up, y'all? My name is Bilal Muhammad, and I'm from the East Coast, as was stated, from New Jersey. Grew up as a two-sport athlete, was able to play football and basketball. Got a full scholarship to play football and basketball to Lehigh University. So I was a two-sport athlete. I was recruited by a lot of the schools in the Big East growing up. Had an unfortunate injury, broke my ankle my senior year. And as we're going to talk about how much that impacts a player, when you get injured, you lose a lot of your recruiting looks. So ended up taking a scholarship to go to Lehigh, transferred to the University of Arizona, went out there to play basketball, had another injury, which kind of sidelined my career, but had an amazing opportunity to play basketball for some incredible people, played with some incredible people. The year that I transferred to U of A, we actually won the national championship, so that was actually really cool to kind of, witness that, be a part of that. And just to be around the basketball community. So coming to Minnesota I spent some time after living in Arizona in the Middle East, had a sports company over there, traveled around the world, played some pro ball over there for a little bit too, had some more injuries. So my career is full of injuries, but it's also full of coaching, traveling, getting to know a lot of different people. Once I came to Minnesota and touched ground here, I hooked up with Brian and the Sizzle program, hooked up with many programs inside of the city, the Fab, the Spartans, you know what I'm saying? So we go way back, man. We raised a lot of kids up in this city in my 10 years of being here. So looking forward to having an amazing show and talking about, the future, what we're trying to do here, and talking about the past and what has happened, so.
One thing that we all have in common up here on this stage is we're all excited about seeing this state progressively grow with the talent here, but also talking about how we've impacted youth throughout, our tenure, whether that's being a dad or a coach. And so for myself, I didn't talk much about my background, but played basketball, football, Highland Park, went to the University of St. Thomas, played basketball there under Steve Fritz and John Tower, which then, really led me to finding my passion for coaching. And began coaching under Sizzle back in 2014. And then that led me to Mini High Academy with my cousin, Jalen Suggs. And we had a hell of a run with that group of kids. And so for me, the game of basketball has given so much to me throughout my life. And I feel so blessed to be able to share those opportunities and share those experiences on this platform with y'all. So a lot of adversity that we'll be able to share, a lot of unique stories, a lot of things that, we can bring to the table that just are unheard of. And that's one of the unique things that this What's Sizzling podcast can really bring. So, B, I think we should start with kind of talking about some of the history that you've seen throughout the AAU. I would say, saga here in Minnesota. Why don't we go back to kind of what got you started with grassroots, and kind of what led you to say, you know what, I want to make a difference in the community through the game of basketball? Because obviously you were a football guy, right? So
Yeah, football guy, but basketball, was my passion. But after a while, like I said, there weren't too many point guards running around looking like Ray Lewis. You know what I'm saying? So that was my thing. Was a conflict of interest. But at the end of the day, when my playing days were over with, basketball still was my thing. I still played pickup. The teams I played professional with in college, we would always play basketball in intramurals, and it seemed like our basketball games during intramurals are probably more competitive than we were on the football field sometimes, because everybody pretty much was pretty hell of an athlete that could play. So my big thing was when I had my son, my dad, I started my program with my dad, Sandra, for rest in peace. He passed away in 2009 of pancreatic cancer. My dad him and my mom was anything that I needed academically and sports wise, they made that happen. I was one of the first minorities to ever go to St. Agnes High School, at that time it was a predominantly white Catholic school in the Frogtown area, and so was the community. So my dad made a point that education was going to be the key to me going on wherever level I was going to go to play sports, because they know the sports thing was always easy for me. So they supported that movement for me the whole time, and then that's something that I took with me throughout everything that I've done since then. I made both my kids went to middle school and private schools. Both are very good athletes, have very good careers, and obviously we can talk about them forever, but I don't want to do that right now. But that was my thing, So when I start nurturing kids and bringing kids, when I started Sizzle, my big thing was I had to put a stage together for them to showcase their talents. And some of the guys that I looked up to and I kind of picked their brain and watched what they were doing were John Sherman, Minnesota Magic. He's been doing it since '88. Renee Pulley was a guy that was a big mentor to me. Him and Larry McKenzie ran Team Minnesota. So those guys were three guys that was mentors to me, and I would watch what they were doing and watch, the events that they would throw, tournaments and different things like that. And I just kind of took a little bit from every one of them and just kind of did my own thing. I shoot straight from the hip, so as you know, everybody up here is going to do that. And I was big on just setting up a platform for inner city kids to have an outlet, because there's very few outlets for inner city teams to play basketball in Minnesota. MYS has their certain rules. Minnesota Youth Athletics has their certain rules, and other than that, there was only one other entity that was doing tournaments was Minnesota Select, John and Lisa Sather. So we used to play in their events. They were the first ones that really gave us a chance to put our teams, when I first started in 2001, in their events, and it kind of took off from there. And then I started hosting my own events after that. Kevin Wilson, a friend of mine at that time from MYS, he started having me host some events for MYS. I get a gym space, and then once I kind of piggybacked off that, and then I started developing my own clientele. So I had the Minneapolis Hustlers, who had a decorated program, one of the top programs in the state for our young youth talent. I'd get those guys. I'd have, my good friend Tony Taylor had the Iceman. Darren Edwards like a son to me. He had the Family First. The Spartans, Jerome Williams, and I just Fab, Lucas Patterson came and played my events. Phelps, all those teams, they had the top inner city talent. So we would have all those kids in the gym at one time. So you'd have, like today, you could go on TV and you could see probably, I'd say 100 plus kids, whether it's Division III, Division I, NBA, NFL, coaching college basketball, you name it, NBA, those kids were in our gym. From Tyler Johnson to Jalen Suggs to Dane Danger to Rasheed, his son, to Lakai Patterson, to my own sons. The Suggs brothers, the Suggs, first Suggs that ever truly played for me was Devon and Deion Suggs, Jalen Suggs' older cousin. That's where the Sizzle started with them. And Terrell Suggs, their cousin, he's 1080 Sizzle, him and DeMar Suggs. So that's where it really started. It didn't start with Jalen and Chet. It started with the Eastsiders and Grassroots with me. And then when me and Larry Suggs locked horns and joined forces, then it became Grassroots Sizzle. But the Eastsiders is where it all started from, right in the hood on the east side of St. Paul. And we had, I won't really go into all the talent we had because he knows a lot of it. We can actually talk about that later on. But the talent we've always had talent for 26 years. That's never been a question. way before Jalen and Chet. We had pros before Jalen and Chet. But at the end of the day, the way social media was in the time when we had Jalen and Chet, they just took it to a whole nother level. Our social media, I feel like of all the AAU programs, and especially around the country, I think that our marketing package for kids getting exposure is one of the best in the country. And I think that our kids were very good when they were on TV. If you hear them talk, you hear Prince Alegbe talk, Chase Carter, Jalen Suggs, Chet, different kids, they all speak really well. You know what I'm saying? And they're very marketable. All of them, from his son, who when we played, they played each other in like an inter squad type of game at the high school that my daughter and his son went to North St. Paul. His son had like 37 points. He did it
put
against
37
the best.
on our heads.
He did that. He did that. Rasheed did that. And, you know, that stage that we had created made it be that much better. That 37 against Minnehaha is way better than playing against Hill Murray. So the stage that we had, we were the Floyd Mayweather of AAU and high school basketball because everybody wanted to beat us. And there were certain things that we did that would annoy people. Jalen and those guys kissing, you know, throwing kisses to the crowd, dunking the ball, getting technicals, chatting them block, hitting threes, you know, shooting the barrel, boom,
breaking his back,
all that kind of stuff. Yeah, breaking his back, trying to dunk. That game, you know, all that kind of stuff that they did. They created a love-hate relationship with people, which at the end of the day, now when they come back home, the love is strong, and you know they're still real tight with all of the kids that they play with. I don't think they really try to big time into those kids, and I think that they all from our own son's team, which you know I think they honestly, as good as Jalen and Chet were, I don't think they would have beat the teams that we had when they were younger. Just being honest, you know what I'm saying? Because those kids were so much more grimy, and they had even more to prove than Jalen and Chet had to prove because those kids set the stage for Jalen and Chet and those guys at Princeton to come do the thing that they're doing to this day. And Jalen and Chet grew up looking up to those kids, and they're still real tight with those guys right now. And that's what makes a program. So that's kind of a long and short of what made me do what I'm doing with the West Sizzling and Sizzle. And right now, I think we're strong as ever right now.
There's one thing about it, the world will never know on that matchup. So you can say they would have beat us. That sounds good, but you know what I'm saying? That's an opinion at the end of the day.
This is great locker room talk. We love it. This is great. This is why the kids and them guys will sit up and they'll argue to their blue in the face about it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the brotherhood so good that we have.
The fact that we could even compare in the same program, a team that could even play with them is crazy. And there's multiple teams. To be honest.
Yeah.
There's a couple in there.
Yeah.
So.
And nobody will never know how really good Devon and Deion Suggs were, or Larry Suggs, Jalen's dad, who was Skip to Malou before they were Skip to Malou. And, you know, Drew Suggs, you know, it's just amazing, you know, the Suggs family, because the greatest athlete Suggs-wise that never make it is Ricky Suggs. You know, he's dunking the ball at 55 years old. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the type of athleticism in that family. You know, so you know from Jalen's sister playing Division I at Robert Morris and Pittsburgh to the list goes on. So you know, and Chet's dad being a Division I basketball star, you know, at University of Minnesota to Chet taking his game to the way the big boys play today by being able to cross people over, dunk on Steph Curry. His dad couldn't do that in a closet if he wanted to. You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
All right, so B, let's talk a little bit about how you got linked with Brian and that story and how we kind of get here today. Let's talk a little bit about how you guys got introduced in.
Yeah, man, I'll try to be as less long-winded than Brian, so I'll try to keep it short and sweet, man. First of all, Brian, he's more like Refrigerator Perry, not like Ray Lewis, I would say, playing basketball, because he's a big guy, man. He kind of undercut his size a little
bit.
Great
screener.
You know what I'm saying? But
no doubt.
He's a really big guy. But for me, man, you know, coming from the East Coast, you know, coming from New Jersey, New York, that part of the country, there's a certain way and certain mentality, you know what I'm saying, like the way people play over there. You know what I'm saying? It's like a hard nose. It's a grind. You know, everybody got something to prove. You know, so if you can't handle the ball, if you can't play, you won't see the court. You know what I'm saying? So pickup games in the East Coast sometimes are more filled up than the high school games. You know what I'm saying? So we got so many street playground legends. He mentioned Skip to Malou. We can name so many names. And Brian, you know, even being from out here, can name mostly all the guys more than me. But just growing up in that kind of culture, and you know, being raised by a lot of those guys on the streets and kind of coming through the ranks. You know, I grew up playing basketball with older guys my whole life. So by the time I got to high school, You know what I'm saying? It was easy to play at that level. So coming with that mentality of just that pedigree of playing against all these top level people, Stephon Marbury, you know, going down to play with and against Allen Iverson, and all of these huge mega stars, Vince Carter, and I could just go on and on and on. But that's the kind of caliber of players that came from that era and from that part of the country. So when you grow up playing against that kind of competition, you don't just learn how to play basketball, you also learn how to coach it and how to train it and what to expect from it. So coming to Minnesota after living in Arizona and going to live in the Middle East, I'll talk about that adventure at another time. I think I came here with the expectation of the same kind of basketball that I was used to. But one of the things that I noticed about Minnesota basketball, man, it was, for lack of a better word, it was soft. You know, the kids were real soft. They played real slow. You know what I'm saying? They weren't aggressive. You know what I'm saying? So I'm used to this like up-tempo, high speed, get up in your face, trash talking kind of stuff. And I struggled to find that kind of atmosphere here. So that's one of the reasons why I hooked up with Brian and Lucas with the Fab and Jerome with the Spartans, because first of all, coming to Minnesota, I didn't even know black people lived in Minnesota. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like a igloo town where Eskimos live, and you know what I'm saying, just people that don't look like me. But finding out that there were black people here from Chicago and Detroit, you know what I'm saying, from down south, and people who actually were born and raised here, I naturally gravitated towards those people. And Brian was one of the first people I met, him and Crystal, you know what I'm saying, with Trey and that whole group with the Minnesota Elite. You know, we had a blast, man, just having our kids play together and the coaching. And Brian really welcomed me to this community. And then after meeting him, I met Lucas with the Fab. And I have, I have 7 sons, so most of my boys play ball. So being able to put them in a community of people who look like them, but also could play like what I'm used to, that's what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to expose my kids to an elite basketball experience. So having my oldest son play, with and against, Jalen and Chet and these guys, you know what I'm saying, all his life, it helped him tremendously. And having my other son, Hanif, kind of grow up looking in the shadows of these guys, it helped him eventually win a state championship, man. So the system works, man. I mean, we train winners. We train people, to be successful. So being around the culture of just people who, again, look like me. I love my people. I love my community, and that's where I'm first going to go to. That's kind of like how me and Brian came together, and that's a short history of how I arrived in Minnesota, boots on the ground.
Yeah, I'm his father in Minnesota.
Uncle, more like my
father.
Uncle, bro.
Basketball father. And yourself?
How I got introduced to B it's pretty simple, man. It's pretty simple. He found me. He saw that he saw this polo shirt that he still gives me shit about.
You always talking about somebody's clothes. Man.
This polo shirt. You want to bring up the polo shirt?
What did the polo shirt say?
It said pump and run.
Yeah, so it pump and run. That just don't work around me.
Pump and run, okay.
Yeah. He's hanging out with us, but he's the only one with pump and run stuff on. I'm like, come on, man, what's going on here? There's something wrong with this picture.
Hey, you know what?
And end of the day, the guys in pump and run, they had a hell of a product, but I felt like it's time to come home, where it's real.
Yeah.
Not that it's not real over there, but there's levels of real. There's Sizzle real.
1,000% true.
There's Sizzle real and there's other real.
Yeah, and that's how I got over here. This guy. No, I think everything happens for a reason, and the stars aligned, and I'm very glad that I was able to connect with B, man. He's that uncle that he was the long lost uncle that I never had. I'm so glad that he's in my life. But no, real talk, we've done a lot of great things together, and plenty more to come from this thing. So I think when it comes to Sizzle, the thing that makes us different and unique is our humility, but our love for the kids, and really seeing the kids be successful. And I see a lot of folks that are in this basketball space locally that don't put the kids first. Most of them are looking at money first, and there's more money grab. And I think that's probably where kids and parents can feel the difference with a lot of the stuff that we do. Because at the end of the day, it's always been about elevating the kids, putting them in positions that were better than what we were in. And that's why I coach. And I think the kids really feel that, you know. Bilal talked about his son Hanif, one of my favorite stories about that kid. And we had battles, man. We had battles between Mini High and Break. And when they beat us his senior year, I told him face to face after the second loss, you're the reason why. You're the glue to this thing. And I really meant that, man, because on the defensive end, and I know I'm going on a tangent, but I never got to tell you this. It's real talk. Defensively, he impacted the game in times where I felt like we were going to potentially win the game. He always made that impact play, whether it was a steal, a deflection, you know, a three, a dagger three. I can see all these plays, and it comes down to all the adversity that he went through previously, because he took some loss from us too, and he could talk about that. Yeah. But it's cool to see the kids come full circle, whether it's him, you know, your older son that was at North St. Paul that put down there 40 on us when Chet fell on his back, you know what I mean? You know, and just, you know, you think about all the history, but at the end of the day, it's all in love, man. It's that Sizzle love. And that's what makes us unique. I think that's what separates us. And I think that's a good time for us to probably take a quick minute, hear from our sponsors, and we'll come back in a second here. Hey, welcome back to the What's Sizzling podcast. One thing that we were just discussing a little bit off air was collaboration and how we're able to unite. And sometimes, you know, there's egos involved that don't allow us to do so. And B, you brought up a great story. I think you should share with the folks in our community around, you know, opportunities. Sometimes you miss them, sometimes you make them. But I'll let you go ahead and share.
No, my thing is I'm all about helping kids, and it don't matter what color jersey they got on. If it's a Sizzle, if it's a Fab, if it's a D1 Minnesota, if a kid needs help and they reach out, it's validated. You know, I mean, that's one thing that we pride ourselves in, especially me, Larry, Suggs, and Quincy being the oldest ones that have been doing it, is helping kids. One of the greatest examples is people think that me and Lucas Patterson run Fab have an issue. If that was the case, if we had a real issue, look, his sons have been playing for me. You know, Jalen's played for us the last 2-3 years, hell of a basketball player. And his oldest son, Lakai, I remember when he was coming out his last year in his prep school with his father, and it was late summer, and you know, and he had an opportunity to go to Southwest Missouri, Southern Illinois, and a good friend of mine at that time, Dana Ford, was the head coach. And Dana Ford coached one of my ex-alumni kids, Zach Lofton, was at Illinois State, so we had been knowing him for a while, and he called me and says, "Hey, B, you know, do you think I should take Patterson?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I heard his dad might be a little bit of an issue." Luke called me and said, "Hey, B, man, holler at him. I ain't gonna be no issue." No problem. Me and Luke was on the three with Michael Benz. I called Dana. I said, "Man, you better take this kid, man." I said, "Dad's gonna be all right." And shit, Lakai went there, had a very good career there. Went in the portal, had an even better career in Charlotte. And then, you know, ended up get to play at home with one of Luke's best friends growing up, was Ben Johnson, University of Minnesota, and everything's worked out. And I know he's going to get an opportunity to play professional in Europe. So that's what I'm all about. Luke can call me today and ask me to help with Jalen. I'm going to do that. It doesn't matter. And I think he would do the same for me if, you know, we sat down, chop it up. There's no love hate there. Same thing with John Sherman's program. At one time, the Noreen boys there, Kevin Noreen, who went and played at West Virginia. The other one played at Radford. Well, when the Marquette's coach got fired, Kevin Noreen was supposed to go to Marquette. His dad, Jerry Noreen, called me and said, "Hey, B, I want him to play with the Eastsiders at that time as an unsigned senior." So he came and played in Renee Pulley's tournament with us. And he ended up playing. We went to the Final Four. He played his butt off. We did really, really good. And the next thing you know, he commenced to West Virginia, played for Bob Huggins. So, you know, that's what we're all about, man. You know, there's a ton of kids that play these other programs, D1 Minnesota, Comets, whatever. They come, and I'm the king of the unsigned seniors. I think I made that great because of the unsigned seniors and us getting kids signed to unsigned seniors. I don't think there's nobody's done as good as we have when it comes to that. So Good News came and played with us. He had played with Lockdown. He had played with D1 Minnesota. He played with Pulley. He comes and plays with Jalen and Chet and Dane and those guys on the circuit with us as an unsigned senior. 3 months later, he signs with Kansas State. So at the end of the day, man, it's about getting these kids committed somewhere to go on and further their education through athletics, and that's what we pride ourselves in doing.
No, that's what's up, man. I'm more so into the youth basketball. You know what I'm saying? I like the process, seeing these young guys coming up from first, second grade and recognizing the stars among them, you know what I'm saying, at an early age. And I'm big on collaboration. One of the things in terms of coming to Minnesota, I didn't want to come here and start my own program. That's one of the things that I didn't like about here. Everybody had their own thing and people weren't really working together. So I wanted to find out, well, who were the players on the ground that I could work with? You know what I'm saying? So in finding out who the people were, who the trainers were, who played a certain style of basketball that I wanted to see, I wanted to actually work with those organizations to help them build their brand, and also to help my kids and help other kids, perform at a high level. So that's why I started working with, like I said, I initially started working with Brian, but actually my first stint was really with Lucas, with the Fab. And we had a great thing going with a lot of the young talent that was coming up, man. Our teams was like killing everybody, but he had one of the best youth teams in the country. You know what I'm saying, for a long time, with Lakai and Miles and Kerwin Walton, he had all these guys, and there was 6 guys, I remember it was 6 guys on that team that beat everybody in Minnesota by 50 plus. Nobody wanted to play him. Kerwin walked in with the afro, Kai walked in looking kind of chubby, Rudy was a little small, little dude, and Miles was just a freak athlete, and they destroyed everybody, 6 kids. And I'm like, man, I want my kids to be a part of that kind of program. So I started working with Luke, early on with the younger guys. And then we kind of switched and transitioned from that to the Spartans, because I saw, Jerome Williams, what he was trying to do with his son. And they had, at that time, they had first graders playing like third grade. You know what I'm saying? And I saw the process. So I'm looking at these incredible little kids play at a high level, and they play defense. You're talking about how Hanif played defense. Coming from the East, we D up. So we in your face, we talking. Gotcha. You know what I'm saying? It's like hands on. You know what I'm saying? It's like you ain't going nowhere type stuff. So, that's the kind of stuff I was looking for, that defense. And the Spartans played the best defense of any team that I saw. And for young kids. So you had Lil Rome, had Mari, had Cashmere, had all these little dudes in first grade, and Prince was actually the center. Mm-hmm. So with Prince being, and he was like a newborn deer, you know what I'm saying? Cash is powerful. Prince couldn't play ball at all. He was just tall and kind of, couldn't be fumbling all over himself, tripping all over. But I watched the process of this kid develop, and again, being able to work with him and work alongside of him, Coach Rome with the Spartans, and build up all of these other kids that came after that group of kids. So we talking about the Jaden Moores, the Anthony Smiths, you know what I'm saying? We talking about, like I said, the Prince. We talking about all of these kids, the Trey Moores, the Chimas, like the list goes on and on and on and on and on of young kids that we've been able to develop. So then by the time they get to high school, they're ready for Sizzle, they're ready for D1, they're ready for Pulley. But a lot of the time the credit isn't there, which we're not looking for credit. We want the kids to be successful. But like I said, I know the process, man. Yeah. And that's the most important thing to me.
And I think, you bring up a very, very good topic around credit and the foundation. Mm-hmm. And if you're at the foundational level, let me be very clear about this, just so everyone's on the same page. If you are at the foundational level developing youth basketball, okay, if they go and make it in high school and they go to college or they go to pros, whatever they do, you're a part of that story.
Absolutely.
You should go ahead and clap it up, because you're a part of that. Can't nobody take that away.
No doubt.
And so for someone like Rome, I told him that from the very beginning. You know what I'm saying? He's done a hell of a job with the Spartans. And the thing is, if you have something golden in a certain area, stick to that blueprint.
Stick to the blueprint.
Cause you're killing it there. You know what I'm saying? And so that I love to hear that. And the other piece is I don't want people to get tricked, because I see this a lot right now with coaches that have youth foundation type programs, and maybe the kids end up growing out of that program. Celebrate that growth. You know what I'm saying? They graduated from you. You led them to that success.
Yeah.
So that piece is always with that kid. Because I've coached a lot of those Spartan kids, and there is something about Spartan tough.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that always is with you. So I want to give Rome a shout out on that one.
Yeah, I want to give another shout out. I kind of feel like we've been leaving out one of the pioneers of St. Paul basketball, young guy Darren Edwards, man. You know what he did with the family first. He kind of did what Jerome was doing in St. Paul. You know what I'm saying? Jerome was doing it in Minneapolis, and Darren was doing it in St. Paul because my kids started out in the rec. We actually started or kind of helped the Family First program to grow through West Minnie High Recreation Center. I used to manage that center when I first started it in Minnesota working there, and you know, just I remember talking to Darren about how, and this is what I'm talking about in terms of support. We lack that in Minnesota, man. We always at each other's necks as black people. You know what I'm saying? Trying to shoot each other down, trying to just hate on each other. And like I said, I didn't come here with that kind of mentality. So there was this mentality of like St. Paul don't cross the river. But for me, I'm not from here. So I can cross to either side, or I can go to Minneapolis, St. Paul, anywhere, and be accepted in both places. But when I first got to Minnesota and St. Paul, you know, the Family First program just existed in St. Paul. Once we kind of worked together, me and Darren, he kind of made a partnership with Jerome, and the river line was destroyed. So St. Paul and Minneapolis started working together, and then you start seeing the gap close. I know in the past maybe the gap was, you know what I mean, it wasn't that much of a gap, but over the course of the time that I was here, Minneapolis basketball was way better than St. Paul. Then there came a time when St. Paul basketball kind of closed the gap a little bit, and now I think it's about even, which is interesting because there's a lot of people who contributed to that. A lot of people put work in with the young kids. I know like the Antoine Kimmons, you know what I'm saying, him coming up through the Family First program. He's a Minneapolis kid, moved to St. Paul. He was taken by Tartan, but he was a St. Paul kid. Helped him get to the state tournament, all this kind of stuff. And you saw what he did for Division II. Best player in the country. Minnesota kid, St. Paul kid, Family First kid. So big shout out to Darren Edwards, man, for all the work he's done.
But the pioneer is Ronnie Smith.
Ronnie Smith.
Ronnie Smith's the baddest man to do it. Let's get
history.
Ronnie. Let's just keep it a buck. Arvesta Kelly Sr., Ronnie Smith, Bill Carter, Bill Peterson. That's the ones.
That's
Floyd Smaller Sr., Floyd Smaller, Central, Mechanic Arts. Them were the ones. That's where it all started. Ronnie Smith, listen, there's no Sizzle, there's no Family First, there's nothing none of that without Ronnie Smith. He's still coaching.
Yep.
That's my guy. Ronnie Smith, Bill Carter, Floyd Smaller, Bill Peterson, Deb Williams, Dre's mom.
Shout out to Coach Deb. Coach me in
Coach
7th,
Deb
8th
Williams.
grade, man.
Valerie,
Island Park, baby. Let's go.
Yeah,
Deb Williams.
Deb Williams.
Coach Deb.
Yeah. Valerie Little, who's a principal. She's a principal at Humboldt. Hell of a basketball player. The history's real, man. Like I said, you know, those type of people, we forget them. Because like I said, without those people, there's no Dave Winfield. There's no Stacey Robinson. Those people are the ones that put them kids in a position to be who they are. There's a reason why Joe Mauer was down playing at Jimmy Lee and not playing at no other white rec center in Nativity. I'm just keeping it real. Sure. There's a reason why Joe Mauer was there. Yes. There's a reason why Joe Mauer's cousin, Jim Mauer, played with me. My dad was our first basketball coach at Battle Creek when we was 9 and 10 years old. Jim Mauer. There's Kenny Mauer. The whole Mauer family, I grew up on it. When I moved to the east side, that's the one white family that took me under their wing, the whole family. From Kenny, who refereed 38 years in the NBA, it's like a big brother to me, to Tommy, who was the AD at Concordia, to Mark, who played in Nebraska, and with the Heisman Trophy winner Mike Rozier. All these dudes, man, was part of the stuff that I took and created this logo right here and all that. These dudes, the Ronnie Smiths. Ronnie Smith, I mean, we talk about it, Antoine, them guys are great. But I'm gonna tell you something. Ronnie Smith had some of the greatest teams you could ever be. Mitch McDonald that works at Johnson. Come on, man. He had middle school teams back then with like Jeremy Phillips and them guys were dunking in 5th and 6th grade. I mean, they're unbelievable. Rasheem Sharp, that was type of kid. Jordan Jet was unbelievable when he played for MLK with Ronnie Smith. And Ronnie Smith, they could never beat us until that last year. I didn't have an 8th grade team, but Ronnie had so much talent, man, and you could just see the kids that he got now that his alumni that got sons, like Jordan Larson's son is going to be a Division I receiver at Assembly. Yes, these are all kids that Ronnie Smith had. You know what I'm saying? Or Arvesta Kelly Jr., who was a monster at Cretan, whose son Rajon works out in our gym all the time in the off season, who's playing 9 years overseas right now. Zach Lofton grew up in the gym over at Ronnie Smith and them guys. I mean, the list is just crazy because Ronnie Smith, every year he said he was going to retire coaching like 8 years ago, and he's still coaching girls basketball over at Como with his sons. He got his son on the staff now. So, you know, Ronnie Smith and them guys, man, I mean, I love them dudes like, you know, like brothers, man. And, you know, I watched everything he done from the swag. He's still swaggy as ever, you know, matching tennis shoes. All his players had matching backpacks. And this is 20 years ago they had all this. So I just took that and took it to a whole nother level with the Jordan stuff and all that. And then Ronnie started watching me. It's like, B, man, I got to get some of the stuff you got.
Catch up.
But I had to watch him do it, you know, and you know, those guys made St. Paul sports what it is. Because the first rec center I played at when my dad brought me when I was growing up was at Frogtown. It was called West Minnie. That's the first team I ever played on. And I played for this dude that's dead to this day, great dude named Perry Pickens. He's my first football coach. And that at Frogtown used to be a rec center, half a court, about this big. And that's all it was. Wooden backboard, dust in the gym. We just be in there hooping, half a court.
Yeah, that's our first LinkedIn, man. That's my first job in Minnesota was West Minnie High Recreation Center, man.
Yeah, one of my players, about 5 years ago, one of my players almost got murdered in front of there, Aaron Gill. Yeah. He got shot right in front of the rec center, and, you know, knock on wood, he's still here with us, but there's a lot of history there.
Yeah, a lot of history.
We had to go get Chet off the playground. He was playing outdoors on the outdoor court there in the summer. He was playing there, and everybody loved him, and we had to get him off there because he was like, dude, you're going to get hurt out there. He was playing he was going there playing every day.
That's awesome.
Outdoors.
West Minnie, man, for the Frogtown people.
Yeah, a lot of history, man.
Yes.
Because I went to St. Agnes, that was our practice field for football.
Yep. I think for like 50 years they've been using that thing, man.
Man, for real.
Nah, that's what you can't make this stuff up, man. This is a lot of history here,
man.
A lot of talent, a lot of legends. Speaking of legends, man, when I first came here, I heard about this guy T-Dub. Like, talking about this T-Dub, this dunking guy.
Hey, you see that S on his chest? He put the S on his chest. That's the first program he played with.
T-Dub?
Come on, that S on his chest.
That dude,
S on his chest. Listen, I was at a Johnson game. My buddy Baron Chapman was a Johnson alumni. He said, B, come to the game. I go to the game.
The Chapman, what's up?
I go to the game. That's real Johnson.
Yeah.
That's not this new Johnson.
Yeah.
That's the real,
Yeah,
them are the OGs. I go to the game, and I see this little cat about 5'9" in the warm-up line doing windmills and 360s. He's a junior in high school. And I'm there with my coaches. I'm there with Troy Russell, Cliff Brown, rest in peace, and Brad Barber, because this is when the first time I was to start a high school AAU team. I already had middle school. And we seen him, and after the game, we said, dude, we need you at trials at Concordia St. Paul on Sunday, right? Mauro rinsed me in the gym. I tell Colin, at that time, Colin Moore was just getting ready to leave Arlington and come over to Johnson. Yeah. So Colin and them all come up to the tryouts, and T-Dub is just taking off, dunking, windmill 360, all that. And then that was the first high school team I had. He ends up being the greatest dunker in the world. My God. You know, I mean, he just reached out to me the other day. He's got a double up printing company now. He's still here? Yeah, he's here in Minnesota right now.
Double up printing company.
Definitely.
T-Dub will definitely be
he's going to be here.
This guy,
we need a guest appearance.
Yeah, he's an example of, I got certain kids that play for me that don't talk to me at all to this day. But he's a dude that's known around the world that every time he touches down, he calls me, he checks in with me. He wants to print, he says, I want to print you guys uniforms next season. If you need uniforms done, coach, I got you. This kid is an example of, the sad thing about it is that social media wasn't as great when he was coming up. Because right now he's viral. And he's still.
Yeah, I knew about him, man, when I first came in, just from just watching him online.
Yeah.
His reputation, even without the viral nature of social media,
Yeah.
he still was world famous, man. He was I didn't really know initially that he was from here. I found that out later on.
Yeah.
But you know, like I said, I knew when I found out that he was from here, because he had them old school kind of hops. You know, he didn't have like normal hops. He had the hops that I remember guys in the playground had. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. When we get him on here, I got some photos from alumni games and stuff that he did dunks are just crazy. And then you look at some of his stuff, Team Flight Brother stuff right now, he's got like 20 million views. Like, there's no way that he shouldn't have NIL deals still to this day.
No doubt.
You know, I think somebody, the agent or somebody needs to grab that kid.
We gonna grab him. We gonna grab him and boost him back up. T-Dub,
he needs to get some.
T-Dub 5'8". Terry Cordier 5'8".
Yeah.
Hey, look.
Greatest dunker I've ever seen.
I'm a sophomore. We're over at Johnson. This was my first. I don't know about this varsity stuff. That was that moment where it's thick in Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Highland versus Johnson. Sophomore year, we're playing each other for the conference. Top 2 teams in the conference. Terry caught this tip dunk against the conference's leading rebounder. He's a sophomore, Rashidi Coleman. Shout out Rashidi. You know what I'm saying? Keep your head up.
For sure. Yes, sir.
Terry comes out of nowhere. Missed 3. He comes out of nowhere. Catches it with 2 hands and just dunks it hard on Rashidi. Whole crowd runs on the court, man. They'll stop the game. Whole hood was on the court.
Game over, man.
The whole hood was on the court. Yeah. So when I say it would have went viral, we ain't had the Instagrams and the Twitters and the TikToks. We ain't had that, man. Because if we did, bro would have had an NIL. He'd have had an NIL, man.
He'd have been screaming gang, gang, sizzle gang. You can believe that. He'd have been screaming gang, gang, because the whole hood, every gang you could think of was there, and they was all united for that game there. They was.
Are you kidding me?
It was great. It was a great atmosphere.
I look forward to this show and just us talking about a lot of the legends of Minnesota and just around or even around the country, man. Like, there's so many basketball legends that don't get a lot of press, and because my kids always kind of clown me, like, show me some tape of when you played, and I'm like, man, I wish. You know what I'm saying? I wish we could show them the games in which we played, but there's videotapes. Somebody got a VCR anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it's really hard to highlight a lot of the legends and let a lot of the young people know who were the pioneers here and across the country that paved the way for them to be megastars themselves. You know what I'm saying? I'm a big person on history, man, and acknowledging people for the work that they put in to create the atmosphere in which we live. You know, I think the moment you lose that, that respect, the moment, you know what I'm saying, you can just see the deterioration and the downfall of just the community as a whole. And I think that's one of the things that young people are even lacking today is just that positive mentorship from older people just to kind of help guide them along the way.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The whole thing with that is that there's a NYS in Minnesota, there's an NYS atmosphere, there's a prep hoops atmosphere. But when you come into a Sizzle tournament, there's nothing like that. I mean, you can't simulate, you can't make it up. St. Bernard's atmosphere, standing room only. Basement is St. Matthews, tile floor, standing room only. And HSRA, when it's really, really turned
before
up,
the bleachers, before the bleachers,
when the Spartans are in there, and you smell the chicken wings and tacos in the bag when you walk to the door.
Know what it is.
You got tacos in the bag all on the floor. Everybody's on the edge of the court. You got Rome screaming diamond. You got everybody in there. The gym is rocking. Minnesota Flight. Everybody's all in that gym, man, and it's nothing like it.
Yeah,
they nothing like it.
Beautiful atmosphere, man.
Yeah. Because guess what? That's what the college coaches come to see. Yeah. They don't want to go.
Man.
They don't want to go. They don't want to go out to Wayzata. Now, don't get it twisted. There's great talent out there, but I'm saying, if you watch TV, the way that the game is played is the way they play it in my gym.
Yeah, big facts.
And that's just a fact.
And I would make the argument that even the Wayzata teams have taken the page out of the book.
Well, the head coach for Wayzata is a Sizzle alumni.
Come on, Snap.
You know what I'm saying?
You'll be on the podcast
when it comes down to it.
Yeah, shooter.
There's a lot of beneficiaries of the style of play.
That dude's the best coach in the state of Minnesota, period.
No doubt.
Right now.
But he comes
Brian
from somewhere.
Shout out to Brian Snetler, man.
Big shout out.
For
Great
real.
success, man.
Him and my man Sean Sweeney, alumni, Sizzle alumni, who was assistant head coach for San Antonio Spurs. That was a starting backcourt for John Thomas, Steve Fritz. Back in the day before Chandler got there, those two dudes paved the way for the guys in the national championships they won at St. Thomas years ago. So shout out to Brian Stella, John Tower, and them guys, man, and Sean Sweeney. Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about what our what our audience can expect in these future podcasts as far as topics, maybe some guests.
Oh, yeah.
What they can expect here in the future, man? Because I know we got a lot of exciting stuff, man. B, you just don't give them too much, man. Don't give them too much, man.
You
We
know,
got
you're
live.
I'm not even gonna give no names. I just say you're gonna get some of the top hip hop artists in the country that's gonna be here on this podcast. You're gonna get some NBA greats that's gonna be in this podcast. You're gonna get some WNBA greats that's gonna be on this podcast. You know, you're gonna get some NFL alumni on this podcast. You're gonna get some hip hop artists on this podcast too. And we're gonna get it all. Like I'm saying, we're here to give it to. This is not just urban. This is worldly. We want to give it. You know, we want to do something different. And shout out to the guys, all the Smokes, the Camerons, you know, the Club Shay and all those dudes. End of the day, you know, they got a stage, but I know one thing: there's no podcast in Minnesota that's doing this. And in the Midwest, there's East Coast and West Coast, but we're gonna take this to a whole nother level.
We're bringing it all together, East, West, and Mid. You know what I'm saying? So, absolutely. I'm looking forward to being able to, in addition to everything Brian said, I'm looking forward to interviewing and having local talent on the
100%.
show.
Yes.
I think to give the voice to the young people. I'm a youth guy, man.
Yes.
So I'm youth all day, every day. I want to give them a voice. I want to showcase them. I want to highlight them. I want to just love on them so they can get all the respect that they deserve. I'm talking about high school kids, even potentially middle school kids. Kids coming up. Like there's some stars in the making right now.
Smith and those guys. We want them all on here.
Goodness gracious.
Want them on here.
You know, and so once we're able to give these kids a voice, and I don't know of any podcast that's highlighting young people in that way.
There's none.
You know what I mean? It's all about the pros. It's all about the college.
Or hating on each other.
Right.
And this ain't the podcast for the hate. We ain't doing that.
Not doing it.
Yep. So looking forward to to the future, all the future shows, and just working with the staff here, man, the guys here, and then we got an incredible crew in the background, doing some filming and editing.
Shout out
and
to
all
the
that
production
stuff.
crew, man. They killing it.
Crew,
The content house.
So
Yeah,
we're gonna keep this thing rolling, man. Got a lot of good stuff, man. Prepare for y'all.
Definitely. What you said, you couldn't say it any better. I don't know of a podcast in the country that's gonna have the teenagers, the middle school kids on the podcast. I don't know of anybody doing that, male and female kids. You know what I'm saying? Out here doing their thing, and we'll get a panel of parents on here as well sometimes. So it is. We're gonna cater to all those that have interest in doing certain things, that got their kids embedded in the sports community. We're gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, giving every perspective a voice, I think, is key, and I think that's, as we look forward to the future podcasts, it'll be something that you see consistently here on the Sizzle podcast, man. What's Sizzling podcast? So appreciate your time today. Looking forward to the next one. We'll be talking a lot about the high school season, what we anticipate from the high school season this year, and some of what we saw this past AAU season. So looking forward to that. And with love, peace, and happiness, we out here.
Put that S on your chest.
Put the S on your chest, baby.
I tell my story across the nation. Let me take it out from here. The sizzle, that I'm sizzle out. The sizzle.